In this kingdom, the state assigns wives to bachelors annually. Burly, waist-thick women are not only highly sought after, but are often fought over by the crowds. Meanwhile, slender women are unwanted and looked upon with disdain. The protagonist, Kyle, was originally a corporate slave in modern society who died from overwork and reincarnated into this other world. However, this second life was no walk in the park. He became an orphan in a border village. His father, a low-rank adventurer known as a woodcutter, died in a goblin attack, and his mother passed away early. While the small cottage remained, he was burdened with a massive territorial residence tax. Kyle sighed, looking at his item box, empty. If he couldn't pay the tax, men were sent to the monster frontlines as meat shields, and women were sold to slave merchants. Today was the day the Kingdom's Guild assigned partners. Regardless of the future, even if just to qualify for the married tax reduction policy, he had to go. Skipping breakfast, Kyle followed his neighbor to the village square. In the square, several dark-skinned, muscle-bound farmers were eyeing the intersection. In the distance, the guild representative, a nun named Martha, who still held on to her charm, approached with 5 girls. The first 2 girls, though average in looks, were burly. One glance confirmed they were high, STR and VIT types, capable of farm work and bearing strong children. But the last 3, the art style changed completely. They were 3 top-tier beauties, considered ornamental vases in this world. Alice, a fallen noble lady with blonde hair and blue eyes, elegant but physically powerless. Luna, a stunning silver-haired half-elf, possessed magic power but was ostracized for being a half-breed, physically frail. Mia, a petite, adorable cat girl. High agility, but her carrying capacity was practically 0. Heavens, is this an SSR tier lineup? Kyle was stunned. He expected leftovers no one wanted, not these top-tier beauties rejected simply because they were unfit for farming. Noon Martha sighed.
Are there only these 3 eligible men this year? Fine.
Unsurprisingly, the 2 farmers quickly selected the 2 sturdy village girls. In a world where magic is scarce and stamina is king, survival outweighs aesthetics.
Is there anyone else?
The nun looked at Kyle, her eyes holding a trace of pity.
Kyle, I know your situation. You can barely feed yourself.
The remaining 3 girls fell into despair. This was their last chance. If not chosen, they would be stripped of their commoner status and sold to the goblin mines as coolies, a fate worse than death. Tears welling in their eyes, they looked at Kyle, trembling, their gazes filled with begging. Kyle was in a dilemma. As a man with a modern soul, he couldn't watch these beautiful girls fall into hell, but reality was harsh. One more person meant one more head tax. Just then, a blue holographic window popped up in his vision.
System alert. Detected host facing a major decision. Trigger accepted. Family development system activated. Core functions: obtain rewards by building a family, reproducing, and developing territory.
Kyle was instantly ecstatic. The reincarnator's cheat code had finally arrived. With a system, what was a measly tax? Looking at the 3 shivering S-rank beauties, he realized they weren't burdens. They were a starter gift pack. Sister Martha. Kyle took a deep breath. Can I choose all 3?
Huh?
Noon Martha froze. Beside her, the village chief was so shocked he dropped his cane.
Kyle, are you mad? The tax for 3 wives stacks. You're seeking your own death.
Is it a problem? Kyle ignored the looks treating him like a fool and stared firmly at the nun. The 3 girls were also stunned. They thought being chosen by one was a miracle. They didn't expect this man to save them all.
If you insist, Kingdom law allows polygamy, provided you can pay the tax.
The nun took out a parchment contract.
Sign your name. These 3 will be your family from now on.
Kyle signed without hesitation.
Ding. Congratulations to the host on successfully establishing a family. Starter gift pack received. 1. Legendary item. Dragon Blood Vitality Potion. Repairs the body and raises vitality to the cap. 2. Life skill. God tier blacksmithing. 3. Combat skill. Extreme intent. Tiger fist.
Kyle led the 3 girls, who were in a state of shock and gratitude, back to his dilapidated hut. It's humble for now, but I promise you'll live in a castle one day. Though it sounded like an empty promise, the girls didn't complain. Compared to the goblin mines, this was heaven. To celebrate, Kyle slaughtered the last egg-laying horned chicken and made a thick soup. Though it was just simple black bread and chicken soup, the 3 girls cried as they ate.
Master, thank you for saving us.
Don't cry. I'm your husband now. Protecting you is only natural. That night, Kyle drank the red dragon blood vitality potion. His originally frail body was instantly filled with explosive power, old injuries healed, and his stamina maxed out. That night, the dilapidated hut was filled with warmth, omitting 10,000 words. The next morning, to solve the imminent tax issue, Kyle went to the abandoned smithy in the backyard.
God tier blacksmithing. Activate.
He picked up a worn hammer. The tool, once heavy, now felt light as a feather. He threw a piece of scrap iron into the furnace. Clang, clang, clang. Under the adoring gazes of his 3 wives, a longsword radiating a cold light emerged. Alice, the former noble, gasped.
This pattern? This is the 1,000-fold steel technique that only exists in legends. Husband, are you a grandmaster blacksmith?
Kyle smiled calmly. Just a little hobby. Kyle took the sword to the Adventurers Guild in the city. The guild appraiser was initially dismissive, but the moment the sword was unsheathed, the entire hall went silent. This sharpness, this mana conductivity, this is a rare or even epic tier weapon. In the end, the sword was sold to the Golden Hammer Merchant Guild for 50 gold coins. In this world, 1 gold coin was enough for a common family to live for a month. Kyle became rich overnight. In the shadows, the Grand Elder of the Merchant Guild heard the news. Find this blacksmith, win him over at all costs. Flush with gold, Kyle purchased massive amounts of supplies, white bread, monster meat, new clothes, and magic rings for his wives. He hummed a tune on his way home, only to find his courtyard gate kicked to pieces. The village bully, Gaston, the obese second son of a baron, was there with several thugs, attempting to throw a dead storm chicken into the yard to frame them.
You 3 thieves! This chicken is my pet, and you stole it!
Gaston stared lecherously at Alice and Luna.
Unless you play with this young master, I'll send you to the guard station.
The wives huddled together in fear. Gaston's hand was reaching for Alice. Take your dirty hands off her. Kyle dropped the supplies and rushed into the yard like a bolt of lightning.
Skill activated, extreme intent, tiger fist.
Boom! With just 1 punch, Gaston was blasted away like a rubber ball, crashing through the courtyard wall, his fate unknown. Before the thugs could react, Kyle took them all down, breaking bones and tendons.
Husband!
The 3 wives cried and threw themselves into his arms. I'm sorry I came back late. Kyle's eyes were cold. In this dog-eat-dog otherworld, power was the only truth. Although Gaston was crippled, he had an older brother, Leo, an elite knight of the royal capital's Deep Blue Knight Order, holding the advanced class of swordsman. Hearing his brother was beaten, Leo returned to the village, radiating murderous intent.
A mere commoner dares to injure a noble?
Clad in bright silver armor and wielding an enchanted longsword, Leo shouted before the villagers.
Kyle, come out and die. If you lose, your women are my spoils of war.
The villagers were too scared to speak. They knew Gaston was in the wrong, but who dared to provoke the Knight Order? Kyle walked out of the yard, looking coldly at Leo. Do you want to break an arm too?
Arrogant.
Leo raged, his battle aura exploding as he charged at Kyle. To ordinary people, the strike was fast as lightning. But to Kyle, who drank the dragon blood potion and had system assistance, it was slow as a snail.
System analysis. Opponent's weakness, left ribcage.
Kyle sidestepped and threw a punch. No flashy magic, just pure overwhelming strength. Pfft.
Leo spat blood, his proud armor dented, and he collapsed to his knees.
Impossible. I'm a level 30 elite knight.
In this village, I am the rules, Kyle said, looking down at him. Just then, the guild grand elder, who hadn't left yet, arrived with guards, proving Gaston had framed them first. Seeing the tide turn, Leo could only flee in disgrace with his brother, leaving a threat.
Just you wait, the Knight Order won't let you off.
Dead of night, Kyle soothed his wives to sleep and quietly rose. Although this is an other world, leaving a typical villain alive means endless trouble. He changed into black clothes, put on a hood, and vanished into the night. On the forest path leading to the town, Leo was riding his horse, his face full of venom.
Wait until I get back to the fortress and mobilize a squad. I'll tear that Kyle to pieces and take his women.
Too bad you won't get the chance. A figure dropped from the treetops.
You?
Leo turned pale with shock.
I am a knight of the kingdom, you dare.
Skill, tiger fist finisher.
No nonsense. Kyle punched the horse's head to pieces and immediately snapped Leo's neck. Watching the enemy dissolve into experience points, Kyle wiped his hands indifferently. Any existence that threatens my family must be eliminated? Kyle returned home just as dawn broke. Alice, Luna, and Mia were standing at the door. Though they asked nothing, their eyes were full of worry and trust.
Welcome home, darling.
Yeah, I'm back. Kyle took out the exquisite rings he bought and placed them on their fingers personally. Alice, the former noble, smiled as she took the ring, trying to maintain the composure of the head wife, but her slightly trembling fingers betrayed her inner anxiety.
Darling, you.
She stopped herself. Intelligent as she was, she had guessed what her husband had done. It's fine now. Kyle gently rubbed Alice's blonde hair, his tone gentle. To protect this home, someone has to do the dirty work. Don't worry. For the next few days, Greystone Village returned to peace. Kyle didn't rush to sell more weapons, but focused on improving their lives.
Skill, God-tier blacksmithing, LV Max activated.
Under the coquettish offensive of his 3 cute wives, Kyle turned the pile of scrap iron at home into brand new tools. Kitchen knives, hand axes, hoes, and even delicate sewing scissors. Though they were just common tools, under the max-level skill, they possessed sharpness comparable to rare or even epic gear.
What? Mayo! Master, this hand axe is so easy to use.
Mia, cat girl, waved a gleaming new hand axe, splitting hard ironwood like tofu. Her cat ears twitched excitedly.
It's sharper than any weapon I saw in the tribe.
Be careful not to hurt your tail, Kyle reminded her with a smile. Seeing his wife's satisfied smiles, Kyle felt calm and determined. However, someone disagreed. On the other side of the village, the bully Gaston lay groaning in a sickbed. He was waiting for his brother Leo, the elite knight, to return for revenge.
Why isn't he back yet? Big brother said just 2 days.
It had been 7 full days. Leo had vanished as if he had evaporated. Just then, 2 men in black uniforms with the deep blue Knight Order crest walked into Gaston's room.
Who are you?
Gaston felt an ominous premonition.
We are investigators from the Knight Order's military police.
One said coldly.
Knight Leo's last reported itinerary was a visit home, but he is overdue. The guild has declared him missing in action.
Missing?
Gaston was struck by lightning.
According to the investigation, he came to find you last.
The investigator stared at Gaston.
Speak, did he offend anyone?
Kyle? It must be Kyle!
Gaston screamed like a madman, revealing the conflict but omitting his harassment of the women, describing Kyle as a thug with monstrous strength.
That poor brat! He has abnormal strength. He must have used some despicable method.
The 2 investigators exchanged glances.
Monstrous strength, a commoner? Classify this as top secret.
Murderous intent flashed in the investigator's eyes.
Anyone who dares touch a member of the Knight Order must pay the price.
To defeat Leo, it seems that kid named Kyle has some skill, perhaps an awakened talent.
Baron, the vice commander of the Knight Order, was a stocky, middle-aged man with a fierce face. After hearing the report, he crushed the wine glass in his hand with contempt.
But regardless of who he is, challenging the authority of the Knight Order leads only to death. Captain Lewis, take an elite squad, bind that kid and bring him back. I want to interrogate him personally.
Yes, sir.
Captain Lewis, a swordmaster, LV-45, and a pillar of the Order, accepted the command. Meanwhile, Kyle knew nothing of this. It was a sunny afternoon. He was taking the neighbor's cowherd boy fishing by the river, enjoying a rare moment of leisure. At home, the 3 wives were busy sewing clothes. Knock, knock, knock. The courtyard gate was tapped gently.
What? Meow!
Mia ran to open the door. Standing outside was a group of strangers. Leading them was an elderly man with white hair but vibrant spirit, wearing a simple yet high-quality linen robe. Beside him stood a young lady with a noble aura, dressed in gorgeous mage robes. Behind them followed 2 attendants. One was Hans, the branch manager of the Golden Hammer Merchant Guild, who had bought Kyle's sword. Usually arrogant, Manager Hans was now acting like a humble servant, carrying bags of gifts and respectfully following the old man.
Excuse me, is this the residence of Master Kyle?
The old man asked politely, his voice resonant. Alice came over. With her noble upbringing, she instantly recognized these people were extraordinary. Their aura was something no ordinary merchant could possess.
My husband went fishing by the river.
Alice was wary but polite.
If you don't mind, you can rest in the courtyard.
Sorry for the intrusion.
The old man smiled and walked in. Manager Hans quickly introduced him.
This is our guild's chief consultant. Cough, anyway, a big shot.
In the yard, Mia was chopping wood with the new hand axe. She was working hard to prepare firewood for winter. Crack! The black ironwood, hard as steel, snapped like a twig under the seemingly ordinary axe in Mia's hand. The cut was smooth as a mirror. The old man's gaze froze instantly. His calm expression vanished, replaced by disbelief.
Little girl.
The old man's voice trembled as he pointed at the axe.
Could I take a look at that hand axe?
Yeah, this!
Mia paused and obediently handed it over.
husband made it for me to chop wood. Be careful, it's sharp.
The old man took the axe with both hands, fingers gently tracing the blade, sensing the extremely introverted mana circuits.
This is the thousand-fold steel technique.
The old man muttered, his eyes burning with fanaticism.
Perfect mana conductivity, completely concealing the sharpness, even sealing the killing intent to prevent accidental injury to the user. This is a realm only a legendary godsmith can reach.
Grandpa Sword Saint, are you sure?
The noble girl asked in surprise.
It's just a chopping axe.
Sylvia, you're mistaken.
The old man, revered as the Sword Saint, took a deep breath.
The craftsmanship of this axe surpasses even the holy sword Durandal in the royal treasury. If the seal is lifted, it could easily split dragon scales.
Everyone was shocked. Manager Hans's legs went weak, and he almost knelt. Godsmith? A figure existing only in epic myths was living in this border village as a farmer?
Husband made it casually for me.
Mia tilted her head, confused.
There are lots more at home. Kitchen knives, hose, they're all like this.
Lots more?
The old man felt his heart racing. This wasn't a farmhouse, it was a wholesale warehouse for divine artifacts. If he could ask this godsmith to craft a weapon for him, he might break through the bottleneck he'd been stuck at as a sword saint, LV90 for years, perhaps even touching the threshold of a sword god. Just as the old man was pondering how to build a relationship with this hidden expert, bang! A loud noise shattered the peace. The courtyard gate was kicked open violently, splinters flying everywhere. Gaston, along with Captain Lewis and a group of fully armed knights, charged in, radiating murderous intent.
Kyle, get out here and die!
Gaston looked hideous. Though missing teeth made him lisp, his arrogance hadn't diminished.
Today I'm leveling this shabby house and making your women regret being born.
The old man frowned, his face darkening. He was just worrying about having no chance to do a favor. Before Gaston could see clearly who was in the yard, he pointed at Mia and Alice, screaming,
Arrest these women first! Take them to the dungeon!
Captain Lewis rested his hand on his sword hilt, scanning the yard. When his gaze landed on the white-haired old man holding the hand axe, his pupils contracted violently, his face turned pale as a sheet, as if he had seen the Grim Reaper. That iconic linen robe, that crest seen only in kingdom textbooks. That was the former commander of the Royal Knight Order, the only living sword saint, Lord Claude. Slap! A crisp, loud slap echoed through the courtyard. It wasn't a stranger who struck, but Captain Lewis. He used all his strength, backhanding Gaston across the face. Gaston's remaining teeth flew out mixed with blood. He spun twice in the air before hitting the ground heavily, completely stunned.
Captain Lewis?
Gaston clutched his face, now swollen like a pig's head, looking at the other man in disbelief. Weren't we here to kill Kyle's whole family? Why hit me? Gaston was utterly confused. This was the third time, first beaten by Kyle, second his brother Leo disappeared trying to help, and now, having brought Captain Lewis of the Deep Blue Knights, he thought he could walk sideways. Instead, smack! A ringing slap sent him spinning.
Captain, why?
Gaston cried, lisping through the gaps in his teeth, face full of grievance. But Captain Lewis didn't even look at him. His arrogance vanished instantly, replaced by extreme terror. Like a schoolboy caught misbehaving, he walked tremblingly to the white-robed old man, bowed deeply, cold sweat soaking his armor.
I did not know the Sword Saint was here. This subordinate has no eyes and has disturbed your lordship. I deserve death.
This was class suppression. In Kyle's home, Claude was a weird old man drooling over an axe. Outside, he was a kingdom legend, the sole sword saint. In this world, offending a sword saint meant the Knight Order would be disbanded by the king the next day.
You are from the Deep Blue Knight Order?
Claude glanced at him coldly.
Barging into my friend's house with so many men. Are you planning a rebellion?
Friend?
Hearing this word, Captain Lewis's soul almost left his body. That blacksmith Kyle from the slums was the sword saint's friend, an honored guest? It was over. Lewis only wanted to do one thing now. Silence the witness, kill Gaston, the idiot who caused this.
My lord, it's all a misunderstanding. It was this Gaston who misled us.
Lewis reacted fast, grabbing Gaston by the collar like trash.
We will leave immediately. Immediately.
Claude waved his hand in disgust.
Take this garbage away. I don't want to see anyone disturbing Master Kyle's peace again.
Yes, yes, yes.
Gaston was dragged out like a dead dog by the knights. Awaiting him was a life sentence in the kingdom's dungeon. Peace returned to the courtyard. The three wives, Alice, Luna, and Mia, watched the fierce knights kneel and beg for mercy, feeling deep awe for the old man's identity. But they were even more surprised. Who exactly is our husband, to make such a big shot defend him so fiercely? Kyle returned home carrying a fishing rod and a bucket of fish, sensing the strange atmosphere immediately.
Husband!
The three wives threw themselves into his arms like frightened birds. Alice quickly explained the situation. The Golden Hammer Merchant Guild had come, bringing an old man who made the night order kneel. Kyle comforted his wives and entered the house. When his gaze fell on the noble girl named Sylvia beside the old man, he froze. It was a beautiful face with long golden hair and noble temperament, but those eyes, why were they so familiar?
Mr. Kyle, don't you recognize me?
The girl blinked mischievously, her voice crisp.
Or should I speak in a different voice?
She lowered her voice.
Hey bro, thanks.
Kyle's pupils quaked.
You are Silver, that rookie adventurer?
Kyle remembered. A few days ago, he had casually saved a boy swordsman being chased by a demon tiger in the forest. The kid was dirty and called himself Silver. He didn't expect that little brother to be a cross-dressing duke's daughter. And her figure was actually this curvy? How many layers of binding cloth did she use before?
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
The girl curtsied elegantly.
I am Sylvia Van Astrea, the eldest daughter of the Divine Sword family, and that is my teacher, Sword Saint Claude.
Everyone took a seat. Though it was a humble farmhouse, in the Sword Saint's eyes, it was a temple. Because every farm tool hanging on the wall, sickles, hoes, knives, radiated an aura of perfect craftsmanship that suffocated him.
Master Kyle!
Sword Saint Claude dropped his airs, his tone frantic.
That chopping axe, did you really forge it yourself?
Kyle took a sip of tea and nodded calmly.
Yeah, just hammered it out. It's handy for chopping wood.
Just hammered it out. The Sword Saint's mouth twitched. Just hammered out an artifact-level item. If he tried seriously, wouldn't he be slaying gods? Sylvia took over, getting straight to the point.
Mr. Kyle, we aren't here to hire you. The Divine Sword family is wealthy, but we can't afford a godsmith. We are here to seek cooperation.
This was a smart move. Facing a hidden powerhouse of this level, talking money is an insult. Talking friendship is the way to go.
Cooperation?
Kyle raised an eyebrow.
Yes.
Sylvia pulled a parchment from her robe and slid it to Kyle.
This is a meeting gift.
Kyle glanced at it, his eyes moving slightly. It was a land deed, located in the best scenic area on the outskirts of the city, complete with vast lands and servant quarters.
This is an estate under my name, originally for vacations, but this hut is truly unworthy of your status and wrongs your three wives.
Sylvia smiled. This was the vision of a top-tier sugar mommy giving a house as a greeting gift.
Besides, as a partner, you need a spacious place to set up your forge, don't you?
Kyle smiled. Having lived 2 lives, this was the first time he felt that living off a woman tasted so good. Since the other party was so sincere, he decided to accept this powerful ally in this other world.
Deal.
Kyle put away the deed and shook Sylvia's hand. In that moment, from a commoner forced into marriage to an estate owner, Kyle took less than 3 days. Looking at the gold-rimmed parchment on the table, Astrea family estate title deed, even Kyle, with his system, paused for a second. This was a true top-tier asset. In this other world, owning land was the foundation of nobility.
This is just a greeting gift.
Sylvia smiled, as if she had given a cookie rather than an estate.
Compared to you saving my life, this is nothing.
Kyle didn't show excessive humility. As a reincarnator with a gamer's mindset, he understood the principle of equivalent exchange.
I accept.
Kyle put away the deed, turning his gaze to the sword at Sylvia's waist.
But this isn't a repayment, it's a transaction. In return, I will reforge your weapon.
Reforge?
Sylvia paused.
This azure edge was forged from extraterrestrial meteoric iron.
The material is S rank, but the forging technique is too crude.
Kyle said bluntly.
Give it to me.
Kyle led everyone to the backyard smithy. Sylvia voluntarily took off her luxurious coat, wearing only tight leather armor suited for action.
I'll work the bellows. As the sword's master, I need to participate.
Kyle was surprised. This duke's daughter had more resolve than he expected.
Start the fire!
Yes.
The furnace roared. Kyle picked up the hammer.
God-tier blacksmithing. Activate.
Under the shocked gazes of Sylvia and Sword Saint Claude, every strike of Kyle's hammer triggered a strange mana resonance. Clang, clang, clang. It wasn't like forging, it was like playing a rhythm. The meteoric iron, usually incredibly hard, was as compliant as dough in Kyle's hands. Impurities were expelled, and the molecular structure was reorganized. Sword Saint Claude's breathing quickened.
Is this the lost thousandfold tempering? No, this is a divine skill beyond the mortal realm.
Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Deep Blue Night Order Fortress. Captain Lewis, pale as a ghost, stumbled into the command room. He was the one scared witless by the Sword Saint at Kyle's house.
Why the panic, like a rookie who's never seen the world?
Sitting in the main seat was Vice Commander Baron, the man who had threatened to crush Kyle.
Vice Commander, something terrible happened.
Lewis trembled.
That blacksmith Kyle, he's a friend of Sword St. Claude, an honored guest.
Baron sprayed out the red wine he had just sipped and jumped up.
Who did you say? Sword St. Claude? The legend who can destroy a nation single-handedly?
It's absolutely true. I saw with my own eyes the Sword Saint almost draw his sword to defend that blacksmith.
Dead silence. In this kingdom, while the Knight Order was arrogant, they were ants before the Sword Saint. Offending him meant the king would revoke the Order's designation and send them to the gallows without hesitation to appease his anger.
Bastard!
Baron kicked the table over, cold sweat pouring down.
It's all because of that idiot Gaston and his brother Leo. Those two morons have doomed us.
Vice Commander, what do we do? Apologize.
Apologize? Will a Sword Saint accept an apology from ants?
A ruthless military gleam flashed in Baron's eyes as he made a cutting gesture.
We must cut off the source of pollution before the Sword Saint gets angry. This is called damage control.
You mean?
Gaston's family, including the recovering Leo. Leave no one alive. Only dead men stop the fire from spreading to the Knight Order.
Dusk. A blinding blue light erupted from the smithy.
System alert, forging complete. Item obtained, true azure edge. Quality, semi-artifact. Effects, monoconductivity plus 200%, ignores 50% armor, auto repair.
Kyle handed the longsword, still radiating cold air, to Sylvia.
Try it!
The moment Sylvia gripped the hilt, a sensation of union of man and sword she had never felt before surged through her. With a light swing, a visible blue sword energy instantly sliced through a giant boulder 5 meters away, the cut smooth as a mirror.
Semi-artifact?
Sword St. Claude sucked in a cold breath. Even he only wielded a weapon of this tier, and this young man had made it in an afternoon.
This isn't forging anymore, it's a miracle.
Sylvia's look at Kyle changed completely. If it was gratitude before, now it was naked worship.
Mr. Kyle, you will forever be the Astria family's most honored ally.
Sylvia's group left. Inside, the three wives stared blankly at the deed on the table.
Husband, is this really for us?
Of course, we move in 2 days.
Kyle hugged them.
This place is too small. We won't fit once we have more children.
Hearing children, the three girls blushed, but their eyes filled with longing for the future. The next morning, Kyle was woken by urgent knocking. The village chief stood at the door, face pale.
Kyle, something terrible happened.
What is it?
Kyle looked calm, as if expecting it.
Gaston's family, the Baron's second son's family, they all died last night.
The chief's voice trembled.
Even the house was burned to flat ground.
Oh?
Kyle raised an eyebrow.
How did they die?
The officials came just now. They said it was an accidental explosion caused by a magical furnace overload.
The chief swallowed.
The brother, Knight Leo, his body was in there too. The case is already closed, and the investigators were from the Deep Blue Knight Order.
The chief was honest, but not stupid. Accidental explosion? It was clearly silencing witnesses. Yesterday the knights were humiliated at Kyle's house. Today Gaston's whole family was gone. The implication was chilling. Kyle patted the chief's shoulder, a cold smile on his lips.
Since the Knight Order says it was an accident, it was an accident. Wicked people get their just desserts from heaven, right, Chief?
Looking at Kyle's terrifyingly calm eyes, the chief suddenly realized, this young man before me, though he didn't lift a finger, possesses enough power to make a behemoth like the Knight Order cut off its own limbs to apologize.
Right, heaven's justice.
Kyle turned back to the house. He knew very well this was the Knight Order's certificate of loyalty to the Sword Saint, and to him. In this dog-eat-dog otherworld, power was the only truth. Gaston's family had bullied others for years, relying on their power, only to die by the hands of the very backers they relied on. It was the most ironic ending.
The trash in the way has been cleaned up.
Kyle looked at his three cute wives packing for the move, feeling cheerful.
Next, it's time to officially start my family development plan in that grand estate.
With Gaston gone, Kyle's life finally returned to peace. However, the moving plan was on the agenda. In 2 days, once the magical herb seedlings in the yard were stable, they could be transplanted. Though the newbie village environment was nice, it was too remote and had zero defense. After the Knight Order massacre event, Kyle deeply realized the cruelty of this world. If he wasn't home, his 3 delicate wives couldn't resist invaders. Plus, it was far from the main city, making shopping inconvenient and questing inefficient. Refusing to live in the luxury estate Sylvia gave him to stay in a hut wasn't Kyle's style. He had no interest in asceticism. Early in the morning, Mia, Catgirl, dragged Kyle to the backyard herb garden, her tail wagging excitedly, looking like she was offering a treasure. Kyle smiled and rubbed her cat ears.
My Mia is amazing. You're in charge of all the magical potion ingredients for the family from now on.
What? Leave it to me, meow!
Mia clenched her small fist, waving it earnestly.
Haha, then you have to level up, or we won't have enough health potions.
Seeing Mia's seriousness, Kyle couldn't help but ruffle her hair again. Mia didn't get angry. Instead, she narrowed her eyes, enjoying her master's affection. Though Mia was small, she was incredibly talented and diligent with the farming skill.
Darling, try this robe on. Does it fit?
Luna, half-elf, walked over holding a brand new robe. Winter was coming, and cold weather gear needed updating. These days, aside from Mia farming, Luna and Alice were busy leveling their tailoring skills.
Sure!
Kyle reached out, but Luna shook her head.
Stand still. Let me dress you.
This?
Kyle rubbed his nose. Was this the corrupt life of a lord?
What? Do you think I'm clumsy?
Luna put on a pitiful expression.
How could I?
Kyle was helpless. These wives knew exactly how to handle him. He had zero resistance to that look. A sly glint passed through Luna's eyes. She did it on purpose. After dressing, Kyle looked in the mirror.
Stats are good. Comfort is a perfect score. You worked hard.
It wasn't just politeness. Luna's craftsmanship was exquisite. She made ordinary linen look like high-grade silk. Putting it on, Kyle instantly transformed from a village blacksmith to a dashing noble mage.
It's our duty.
Luna smiled, clearly satisfied with her work.
Luna, where did you learn this? If you opened a fashion shop, you'd make a killing.
Kyle praised casually. However, the happy Luna's smile vanished instantly, her mood visibly dropping.
What's wrong? Did I say something?
Kyle was confused.
No, nothing.
Luna shook her head, but tears were already falling.
Are you homesick?
Kyle gently wiped her tears. Luna choked up.
I thought of my mother who taught me. I wonder how her health is. Winter is coming. Will her old injuries flare up?
To avoid burdening her family, she had accepted the guild's assignment, leaving for months. For a half-elf girl leaving home for the first time, the longing was deep. Kyle understood instantly. In this other world with poor transportation, married daughters often couldn't return home for a lifetime. But for him, that wasn't an issue.
Don't cry.
Kyle pulled her into his arms.
Once we move to the new manor and settle down, I'll go with you to visit your parents. If your mother is willing, we can bring her to live with us. The manor is huge. One more pair of chopsticks won't matter.
Really?
Luna looked up in surprise, tears glistening in her eyes.
You'd really go back with me?
In this patriarchal world, few husbands would go through the trouble of visiting their wife's family, let alone bringing a mother-in-law to retire with them.
Of course.
Moved, Luna blushed, her eyes determined.
Husband, I want to have your babies. Lots of little elves.
Haha, good.
Kyle laughed. Tonight's sewing mission was going to be overfulfilled. Dusk. Just as Kyle was preparing to enjoy dinner with his wives, a commotion erupted in the village, accompanied by barking dogs.
What's happening?
Kyle put down his cutlery and walked into the yard. This remote newbie village usually had zero entertainment. Such a disturbance was rare.
Big brother Kyle! Big brother Kyle!
In the distance, the neighbor's cowherd boy, Toby, came running, panting heavily.
It's a disaster! A demonized saber-toothed tiger, Elite, got into the village. It killed third uncle's sheep and injured people.
What? A monster in the village?
The 3 wives behind him turned pale. Monsters usually didn't approach human settlements unless injured or frenzied. Once inside, it was a catastrophe for commoners. Roar. Before Toby could finish, a deafening roar echoed. A massive blood-stained saber-toothed tiger charged out from the intersection, carrying a heavy scent of blood, heading straight for Kyle's house. It seemed to sense the high mana reaction there.
Watch out.
Behind it chased a group of villagers with farm tools and crude bows. The village chief, leading them, had served in the army but was helpless against such a berserk monster, shouting warnings. The tiger's eyes were crimson, its maw wide open, revealing fangs longer than daggers.
Ah!
The wives screamed, instinctively huddling together. Toby's legs went weak from fear, yet he didn't run. Instead, he shouted,
If you want to hurt brother Kyle's family, you have to get past me.
The scrawny boy stood before Kyle with a broken stick. Though shaking, his eyes were fierce.
Good courage.
Kyle nodded appreciatively, then pulled Toby behind him like a chick.
But this mob isn't for you to farm. Leave it to me.
Brother Kyle?
Toby was confused, feeling helplessly tossed behind. The chasing villagers were dumbfounded, facing an elite monster. Kyle didn't run but stepped forward. Where was the sickly Kyle of the past? However, the next scene made them question reality. Kyle didn't draw a sword or chant magic. He simply stood there, narrowed his eyes slightly, and stared dead at the charging tiger.
A passive skill. Dragon's aura released.
The charging tiger suddenly slammed on the brakes, claws plowing deep furrows in the ground. It looked at Kyle in terror, as if seeing not a human, but a primordial dragon at the top of the food chain. It was absolute suppression from the bloodline. Whimper, the arrogant king of beasts, let out a cry like a house cat, tucked its tail, turned, jumped into the nearby creek, and swam away desperately. It didn't dare look back even once. One look, just one look scared off a berserk demonized saber-toothed tiger. Dead silence.
Wow, what skill is that?
The villagers were stunned. Stars of worship appeared in the three wives' eyes.
Husband is so amazing.
Toby was slack-jawed. Standing behind Kyle, he faced the terrifying aura directly.
Presence fiercer than a tiger.
Toby clenched his fists, a seed of desire to become strong planted in his heart. In the crowd, someone swallowed hard. That Gaston family, could it be? Connecting the dots between Gaston's annihilation and Kyle's current divine might, a chill rose in the villagers' hearts. Especially the father of Two Dog, a nickname, who had offended Kyle before. His face turned white. With the monster threat gone, the villagers dispersed. But no one could stay calm, especially Two Dog's father, who went home shaking. If Gaston's family was wiped out for offending Kyle, wasn't his family in danger? After all, his son Two Dog was Gaston's lackey and had bullied Kyle. The more he thought, the more scared he got. The old father didn't sleep all night. Kyle didn't care about them.
It's okay now.
He comforted his frightened wives.
Husband, how did you do that?
Mia looked adoring.
Simple, just be fiercer than it. Beasts bully the weak and fear the strong.
So that's it, husband knows so much. Innocent Mia believed him instantly. Kyle turned to Toby.
You had guts just now.
Toby scratched his head, embarrassed.
But don't throw your life away next time. Read the situation, don't make meaningless sacrifices.
Kyle lectured seriously. He didn't want this potential-filled boy to die from recklessness.
I got it, big brother.
Toby nodded, blood still boiling.
It's dark, go home.
Sending Toby off, Kyle took his wives inside.
Husband, you should have thanked him. Why lecture him?
Luna was puzzled.
Because he cares about us, I don't want him to die.
Kyle said plainly. Only the head wife, Alice, former noble, understood Kyle's intent and smiled gently. That night, Kyle displayed combat power fiercer than a tiger, leaving Luna completely melted. Next morning, the familiar knocking returned.
Who is it now?
Kyle got up helplessly. Opening the door, it was the village chief again. But this time, people were behind him carrying a stretcher. Lying on it was Two Dog with a broken leg. Beside him stood Two Dog's father, looking terrified.
This is your second uncle. He brought his son to apologize.
The chief sighed. Yesterday, Two Dog's father was scared to death and insisted the chief help him beg for mercy. To show resolve, he even personally broke his son's other leg. Kyle looked at the despairing Two Dog on the stretcher and almost laughed. Well, with both legs broken, he wouldn't be a thug anymore. Within half an hour, the apologizers left a pile of cured meat and mountain goods and ran for their lives. With that interlude over, Kyle's moving plan officially started. The chief sighed.
Heard you're moving?
Yeah, to the city outskirts.
Kyle nodded.
Good.
The chief looked complex.
You've made something of yourself. Your father can rest in peace, and the lineage issue is solved.
Looking at the three beautiful wives, the chief almost felt the urge for a second spring, but thinking of his old wife at home, he dismissed the thought.
Give a shout when you're ready. Everyone will help.
The chief left. He knew Kyle was no longer a pond fish. Scaring off a demon tiger, making knights bow, this young man was a hidden dragon. Kyle returned to the yard for final packing. He used these few days to activate god-tier blacksmithing, turning leftover iron into a batch of fine blades. In this dangerous world, self-defense weapons were hard currency. Early the next morning, the Golden Hammer Merchant Guild convoy arrived on time. Manager Hans, with a team of servants and luxury carriages, stood respectfully at the door.
Master Kyle, the convoy is ready. We can depart any time.
Hans bowed like a shrimp. Moving house for a godsmith was an honor. His boss even wanted to send his daughter as a maid, but was rejected. The three wives had packed and stood excitedly by Kyle. Luna was especially thrilled. Moving meant getting closer to visiting home. Luggage was carefully loaded. Kyle didn't rush. He stood at the door, taking one last look at the hut he lived in for months.
Master, waiting for someone?
Hans asked cautiously.
No, just saying goodbye.
Kyle locked the gate. This was his starting point, where he met these three girls. The convoy set off grandly. Villagers gathered by the road, eyes filled with envy.
Kyle really met a benefactor.
The sickly kid is so grand now. The chief stood in the crowd, silently blessing him.
Stop.
Kyle jumped off the carriage, walked to the chief, and handed him a long wooden box.
Uncle Wang, for you, a memento.
The chief took the heavy box. Though unopened, Manager Hans's eyes went straight. A gift from a godsmith? It was definitely a top-tier weapon. It could buy half the village at auction. The convoy continued. Just outside the village, it stopped again. This time, Toby blocked the road. The half-grown boy carried a small bundle, looking at Kyle with determination.
Big brother Kyle, I want to follow you.
Why?
Kyle asked.
I don't want to herd cows forever. I want to be strong. I want to be successful like you and protect my family.
Toby shouted.
I can eat any bitterness.
Even as a servant?
Yes.
Then get on.
Kyle pointed to the rear carriage.
Huh?
Toby froze. That easy?
Get on or I'm leaving.
Thank you, big brother.
Toby jumped on excitedly. Kyle smiled. He needed to cultivate some trusted aides. Toby had a low level but high loyalty. He was a good seedling. Dusk. The convoy finally arrived at the destination, Silver Moon Manor. Located by the city outskirts near mountains and water, inside the high walls were scattered pavilions, a massive garden, and an artificial lake. It covered hundreds of acres. In this other world where land was gold, this was royal-level treatment.
This is the house Miss Sylvia gave us?
Kyle looked at the magnificent complex and sighed. Was this the money power of a top-tier sugar mommy?
Yes, this is the territory Miss Sylvia gifted you in the name of the Astria family.
Manager Hans beamed. Originally belonging to a bankrupt viscount, the Astria family bought it as a gift to woo the godsmith. Kyle nodded at the grand sight.
Thanks Sylvia for me. Hans, from now on, all interface with the Golden Hammer Merchant Guild goes through you?
Hans trembled with excitement. In this world, being a proxy for a godsmith meant a meteoric rise within the guild. The convoy entered the manor. 2 rows of servants in black and white uniforms were waiting. Welcome home, master. Leading them was a meticulous old butler.
This is Alfred. Served a royal branch, 40 years experience. Loyalty impeccable.
Hans introduced. Kyle scanned the crowd. System. Intimidation. Slightly active.
In this manner, my rules are the only law. The loyal will be rewarded, traitors will be expelled.
A simple speech established authority. Then, Kyle called Toby over.
Toby, you won't do chores. From today, you are my squire knight, responsible only to me.
Yes, boss.
Toby straightened his back, eyes fanatical. That night, Kyle and his 3 wives, Alice, Luna, and Mia, officially moved into Silver Moon Manor. Meanwhile, in the Northern Kingdom, inside the Estrella family castle, as news of the semi-artifact Sylvia brought back spread, the elders who opposed giving the manor to a poor kid fell silent. A godsmith who could forge semi-artifacts casually? This was a strategic resource the family had to protect at all costs. The luxury of the new home exceeded the girl's imagination. Hundreds of acres, independent defense arrays, a magic herb garden, and a private hunting ground. Kyle didn't indulge in pleasure. He took Toby to the lakeside and built a Grandmaster blacksmith workshop. Only a workshop built personally could maximize the system's efficiency. One afternoon a few days later, Butler Alfred walked elegantly to the workshop. Master, 2 guests are waiting in the parlor. No appointment, but their strength is not to be underestimated.
Oh?
Kyle put down his hammer and changed clothes. The guests were an old man and a young woman. The old man wore a dark red robe, his aura deep as a dormant volcano. The girl wore fiery red dragon skin light armor. Her figure was explosive, and she carried a giant horse-slaying saber disproportionate to her size. Seeing how young Kyle was, surprise flashed in the girl's ruby-like eyes.
You are?
Kyle asked. The red-clad girl lifted her chin, revealing white tiger teeth, her tone arrogant and confident.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vanessa Ignis, first heir to the Duke Ignis family. I'm here to discuss an exclusive partnership.
Ignis family? Kyle quickly searched his world knowledge. In this kingdom, there were 2 pillar families controlling military power. The Northern Astria, famous for swordsmanship and light weapons, known as the Silver Sword family. The Southern Ignis, famous for heavy weapons, saber techniques, and berserk skills, known as the Red Lotus family. They were arch rivals, fighting over Royal Knight Order weapon contracts for centuries.
Partnership?
Kyle smiled.
Your news is fast.
Of course.
Vanessa pouted disdainfully.
That Civ-like intelligence network of the Astria family is no secret. I heard that woman Sylvia gave you a manor. We Ignis can give double, and our family monopolizes heavy armor legions. The market is much bigger.
So much gunpowder. Kyle shook his head.
Sorry, Miss Vanessa. I already promised Sylvia. As a craftsman, credibility is my bottom line.
You.
Vanessa jumped up, her magnificent chest heaving, her tight leather armor creaking.
Are you stupid? We are Ignis. How can that fencing family compare to us?
I didn't say you were bad, but I promised them first.
Kyle drank his tea calmly.
I don't believe it. No one has ever dared refuse me.
Vanessa glared, looking like a puffed-up lion cub, fierce but oddly cute.
What? Is the Ignis family planning to force a sale?
Kyle looked at her with a half-smile.
Who's forcing a sale? I'm just loud.
Vanessa stamped her foot.
This lady just doesn't want such talent buried.
No matter how Vanessa tried, Kyle wouldn't budge. Finally, the silent red-robed old man, family guardian Blade Saint, spoke.
Vanessa, do not be rude.
The old man handed a token with a burning flame crest to Kyle.
Master, since you keep your word, we won't force you. This is my token. If you change your mind, the Ignis family's door is always open.
This was recognition from a top-tier powerhouse. As the two walked out, they ran straight into Sylvia's group, arriving in a hurry. Talk about enemies crossing paths.
Vanessa? Sylvia?
The air solidified instantly, imaginary lightning crackling between their gazes. The elders behind them, Sword Saint and Blade Saint, also harumphed at each other, terrifying pressure stopping the rustling leaves.
Old thing, not dead yet?
If you aren't dead, how could I bear to die?
Elders clashed with aura, juniors clashed with words.
What are you doing here? Not playing with your big knives in the south, but running to my turf to act wild.
Sylvia crossed her arms, hostile.
Huh? Your turf?
Vanessa retorted.
Some people were almost forced to marry a pig-headed baron, and now act like a strong woman? Heard you can't get married?
Who can't get married?
Sylvia was poked in a sore spot, reacting like a cat with its tail stepped on.
Whoever responds.
Vanessa said smugly, puffing out her cheating-level chest.
My suitors line up from here to the capital, unlike someone who relies on family fines to dodge the mandatory marriage act.
Two top noble ladies bickered like market shrews. Finally, having failed to poach Kyle, Vanessa left a threat.
Sylvia, don't be smug. The Godsmith will be mine sooner or later. Just wait.
She stormed off with the old man. Having driven off her rival, Sylvia looked at Kyle nervously.
Kyle, she didn't offer anything that moved you, right?
Seeing the usually heroic swordswoman looking so insecure, Kyle smiled.
Relax, I didn't agree, but your family's security really needs work.
Sylvia and the Sword Saint blushed, promising to investigate the mole immediately. After sending Sylvia off, Kyle decided to fulfill his promise. He was taking his second wife, Luna, back to her parents' home. The luxury carriage Sylvia left behind came in handy. Pulled by two white horses with unicorn bloodlines, hauling a rosewood carriage trimmed with gold, this was a Duke-level ride. Luna's hometown, Souville Village, was quite far. On the way, Luna held Kyle's arm tightly, eyes red.
Husband, thank you, really.
In this world, once a commoner girl married, especially via assignment, it was almost a permanent farewell. To return home in such glory with her husband was a dream she dared not dream.
Silly, you are my wife. This is as it should be.
Kyle stroked her long hair gently. Souville Village, though a large settlement, it was still poor. When the luxury carriage, usually seen only in the capital, rolled into the village entrance, the whole place exploded.
Gods above! Whose carriage is that? Pure blood magic horses? Has a great noble descended?
The village chief ran out with the elders in a panic, terrified of slighting a VIP and bringing disaster.
Quick! Everyone kneel! Don't offend the great person.
The chief shouted at the onlookers. The carriage stopped slowly. The door opened. Toby jumped down to place the stepstool. Under the awed gazes of all villagers, Kyle helped Luna down. Luna, wearing a high-grade silk dress, looked as noble as a princess.
Third uncle, Grandpa Chief.
Luna called out timidly to the elders kneeling on the ground.
Luna?
The chief looked up, eyes popping out. The poor girl sent away crying months ago came back in a great noble's carriage. At this moment, Souville Village felt like it had been hit by a magnitude 10 earthquake. In Souville Village, girls forcibly assigned away usually meant goodbye forever. When the gold-rimmed luxury carriage stopped, the villagers' first reaction was fear, thinking the tax collector had arrived. However, down walked Luna, radiant in a silk dress.
Luna, is it really you?
The chief couldn't believe it. In their minds, a frail girl like Luna had likely been sold to the red light district, but now, she returned with a noble-looking husband.
This is my husband, Kyle Van Estrella.
She borrowed the Duke's surname to deter trouble. Luna introduced. Kyle smiled and nodded. Though he suppressed his aura, his exquisite mage robe and the carriage full of supplies spoke volumes of his status. Just then, a mournful cry came from the crowd.
Luna, my daughter, where are you?
An old woman in coarse linen stumbled out, hands groping the air, her eyes a chaotic gray-white.
Mother.
Luna broke down, rushing into her mother's arms. Kyle frowned, activating True Eye.
Status, soul depletion blindness. Cause extreme grief caused spiritual overdraft, damaging the optic nerves.
Harder to cure than physical blindness, but in Godsmith Kyle's hands, not incurable.
Mother-in-law's eyes?
Kyle asked the chief quietly.
Since Luna left, her mother thought she was sold as a slave. She cried day and night, prayed at the church until she fainted, and finally went blind.
Everyone went to the small house. Luna's home was dilapidated. In the yard, a skinny boy lay on the wall.
Little Wu Yu?
Luna recognized her brother's child.
Auntie!
The boy rushed down to hug her. Entering the dim room, the smell of rotting herbs hit them. A pale man lay on the bed, leg wrapped in blackened bandages.
Brother.
Luna gasped. It was Luna's brother, Leon, once the village's strongest hunter, now weak as an invalid.
Luna, you're back. Cough. Looks like you're doing well. I can rest easy.
Leon's eyes lit up seeing his sister. Kyle stepped forward to check the injury. Comminuted fracture with traces of dark element erosion. Not a normal fight. The opponent used an enchanted weapon or dark magic item. Sending the family away, Kyle asked,
Leon, who did this?
Brother-in-law, don't get involved. It's the Viper Gang. The bully is named Lyle. His sister is the mistress of a Viper Gang boss named Vago. I fought Lyle over water rights and hurt him, so Vago brought men and broke my leg.
Leon smiled bitterly. Viper Gang? Cold light flashed in Kyle's eyes. A gang not even comprised of class holders dared touch his people?
Toby?
Kyle snapped his fingers.
Here, boss.
Give a high-grade healing potion to Leon. As for the Viper Gang, I'll make them regret being born.
Kyle said calmly. Trouble came faster than expected.
Leon, dead yet? If not, pay this month's protection fee.
The courtyard gate was kicked open. The fleshy-faced bully Lyle barged in with several thugs in black.
Yo, isn't this Luna?
Lyle spotted the dressed-up Luna, greedy eyes roaming over her.
Tisk tisk, went to the city and got tastier. Since your brother has no money, why don't you keep this master company?
You, shameless.
Luna shook with rage.
Shameless? I can get even more shameless.
Lyle leered, reaching for Luna. Bang! No words. Kyle appeared before Lyle like a teleport, throwing a punch. Controlled force. Didn't kill him, but shattered every tooth in his mouth. Lyle flew 5 meters like a rag doll, hitting the wall hard, face covered in blood, jaw completely pulverized.
Woo, woo.
Lyle looked at Kyle in terror, unable to speak.
Get him! Kill him!
The thugs drew daggers. Kyle didn't even draw a sword. Thud, thud, thud. Muffled sounds. 4 thugs lay in a pile in the corner, limbs broken.
See! Signal!
A subleader struggled to crush a sound transmission crystal. A red magical beam shot into the sky. The beam exploded into a grotesque snakehead pattern. Panic in the village.
It's the Viper Gang's blood decree. It's over. They're going to slaughter the village.
The chief's legs went soft. Within 10 minutes, the ground shook. A squad of fully armed cavalry charged into the village, escorting a gaudily decorated carriage flying the Viper Gang flag. From the carriage stepped a heavily made-up woman and a bald giant. The giant wore a thick gold chain and held an enchanted battle axe. The Viper Gang boss, Vago. The woman was Lyle's sister, Lola.
Who hurt my brother?
Seeing Lyle like a dead dog, Lola shrieked.
Sister, save me.
Lyle moaned.
Vago, look, you have to tear him to pieces.
Lola screamed.
In this territory, no one dares touch my men. Surround this house. Leave no chickens or dogs alive.
Vago's face was dark. 30 black-clad cavalrymen drew long sabers, murderous intent soaring. Villagers hid far away, trembling. The chief closed his eyes in despair. Kyle looked strong, but these were dozens of killers.
Come out and die.
Vago roared, raising his axe towards the gate. Kyle walked out slowly. He didn't look at Vago, but leisurely adjusted his cuffs. On his chest, a silver crest shone in the sun, the Estrella family guest crest. And in the corner of the yard, the carriage Vago had ignored now seemed blindingly bright. Carved on it was the sword and rose pattern, and the 2 horses had faint unicorn spirals on their foreheads. Vago's raised axe froze in midair. Cold sweat poured down instantly, pupils contracting violently. As an old hand in the underworld, he knew better than commoners what these signs meant. Unicorn blood horses, exclusive to royalty or dukes. Sword and rose crest, the emblem of the northern overlord, the Astrea Duke family.
Vago, why are you staring? Chop him!
Lola screamed, oblivious to death.
Chop your mother.
Vago backhanded Lola, sending her flying. Smack. Lola was stunned, half her face swelling instantly. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, the arrogant gang boss dropped his axe. Thud. Vago knelt heavily, knees cracking the stone slate. He prostrated on the ground, shaking, voice distorted by extreme fear.
My lord. This small one didn't know a lord of the Duke's house descended. I deserve death. I have no eyes.
Dead silence. The murderous cavalry, seeing their boss kneel, dropped their weapons in panic and knelt too. Kyle looked down at Vago, eyes indifferent as if looking at an ant.
Viper Gang, quite the majestic display.
Lord, spare me. It's a misunderstanding. This bitch bewitched me. I'll pay. I'll be your ox or horse.
Vago banged his head on the ground, forehead bleeding. In this country, offending a core member of a duke's family meant even the city lord would be flayed alive, let alone a small gang boss.